Honestly, I don't think enough people talk about this, and so I'm going to fight it head on today. It is the fact that you might feel like you're going into labor every night for consecutive nights. In reality, you're not going into labor, and it is so disheartening to have like your hopes up and like planning everything and kind of nervous about it, and then all of a sudden it stops. So today we're going to talk about prodromal labor and some of the things you can do to maybe stop it, keep it going. Let's jump into it. And yes, this video is going to speak to my 20 years in labor and delivery, but it's also going to speak as a mom who had prodromal labor for what seemed like weeks with my last baby. So I'm excited that you're here because I really feel for you if this is you. And I gotta say, I felt like I didn't even know my body at all, especially as a labor and delivery nurse with this happening consecutively. I was like, Hillary, you should be able to get a handle on this, which I couldn't. So if you feel like you can get a handle on it, with my last baby, I had actually been a labor and delivery nurse for 8 years. So it was really disheartening for me, the fact that every night I was like, do we call the sitter? What are we doing? I get you. I see you. It's a lot on our emotions and our body. The first one is to talk with your provider. There might be something like a bladder infection that ends up causing this, or you could talk about an induction, which is what I ultimately did. I feel like my body actually maybe never would have gone into labor because it happened every night. I was 12 days overdue, and I think I just needed my water broken, and then the baby came very quickly right after that. But talk with your provider, see if an induction is right for you. If you don't want to have an induction, they might have other things. I actually have a whole post of things that might push you into labor, but you always want to do those in conjunction with your provider. So I'll link that video here, but be sure and talk with your provider, and also make sure that nothing else is wrong, like a bladder infection. I actually have a whole post about bladder infections during pregnancy, and I'll link that one down below as well. Number 2 is this bad boy, drink more water. Now, you'll hear labor and delivery nurses act like drinking water can save the world. My family is so tired of me because every time they tell me that something is wrong, I'm just like, drink more water, because that is the labor and delivery nurses thing. Like, water actually does fix a lot of things in labor and delivery, and it actually is one of the reasons that people can have this kind of false labor in the evening. For me, I think it might have contributed because I really tried to cut myself off of fluids about 5 p.m. I mean, I downed a lot of fluids before then, but I was trying not to use the restroom all night long. So if I had drunk maybe another cup of water after dinner, maybe I could have staved it off a little bit. Editor Hillary here. I feel like I didn't really explain that well as I created this video. So your uterus needs to be hydrated, or it becomes what we call irritable. And those tend to be tiny, annoying contractions that don't lead to anything. In general, we mostly see those caused by dehydration, so drinking lots of water can stave off those irritable contractions. And I'm here to say that those irritable contractions can hurt quite a lot, but they don't produce anything. It can also be caused by other things like a bladder infection or bacterial infection in the birth canal and things like that. So there are medical causes, but one of the things we can always just like check off first is make sure that you're hydrated to prevent those irritable contractions, which in turn also make you quite irritable. So that's just a message from me and Bucky here. Pro tip, find a cup that you love. I love that cup. It's stainless steel. The water tastes the same every single time. So finding a cup that you love will be helpful towards the end of pregnancy, but also in your breastfeeding and your postpartum journey as well. Number 3, we sort of talked about with number 1, but you may make the choice to get induced. If you're 39 weeks, you can make the choice to be induced for whatever reason you want. Now, it depends on your hospital. Some hospitals will not take elective inductions until 40 weeks, but I am finding that that's a little bit more rare anymore. The ARRIVE trial at least showed us that inductions are safe after 39 weeks of pregnancy. And if you're constantly getting your hopes up and then feeling depressed every night, that might be an indication that an induction might be right for you. I know it was right for me. If you are considering an induction, I actually have a whole induction checklist that I'm going to link down below. It's really important that you understand kind of what you're expecting as you go in for the induction. Providers a lot of times don't educate patients as much as maybe they should with an induction. So I both recommend going through that checklist, but also taking a class that includes induction. I'll link the birth class that I recommend down below. And if you're thinking, Hillary, it's too late for a birth class, I'm here to tell you the one that I recommend is only 3 hours long. And if you double time it, which Hillary loves to do on a lot of videos, you could do it in an hour and a half. So again, I'll link it down below. Now, the 4th tip is that you might be thinking this really isn't doing anything to my cervix. You might go into your provider and your cervix is open 1, but in reality, these contractions may be doing some cervical softening or cervical ripening. I actually have a whole video on cervical ripening. I'm going to link it down below, but that does things to your cervix that go beyond like what number centimeter you are. It softens it, it makes it more ready for labor. So even though you're not going into labor, these contractions actually got my cervix to 5 centimeters and then it kind of stopped, but it was soft and totally ready for my induction when I had it. It went very quickly. And pro tip, if I had let them break my water, it would have gone even faster. So Hillary clearly has some control issues. Are you surprised? Now, my 5th tip, and no one is going to like this, but at a certain point, you just have to let it go. You just have to think, okay, I'm going to have this every night and I'm not going to get my hopes up until I really can't talk through them. I had contractions that were painful. I mean, pretty darn painful every night, but I could talk through them. They weren't that frequent and they were not increasing in intensity during the night. And ultimately they would peter out in the middle of the night. So you need to think, I'm just going to roll with this until they start increasing in intensity and I can't talk through them. And of course, you can always talk with your provider if you have any questions. I've got to say that we didn't have family in town, so we were always trying to figure out when we were going to call our friend who was going to be a sitter. And thank goodness she understood that, this wasn't a perfect science, although I'm sure she was like, Hillary, you work in labor and delivery. Why have you called me 4 times? But either way, people understand. But I understand how hard it is to think we're going to the hospital only to find out that maybe you're not going to the hospital. Now, if you're like, how can I get this to continue into actual labor? I actually have a whole video about prodromal labor. That's what this actually is. I'm going to link it up above. I know a lot of you guys struggle with this and I see you. I promise it's not going to last forever. So I'm so glad that you're here learning with me today at the Pregnancy Nurse, where we get you prepared, not scared for your upcoming hospital birth.